She has been on the air guiding us since day one of the pandemic. Please welcome back the author of The New Normal, A Roadmap to Resilience in the Pandemic Era, Dr. Jennifer Ashton. Good to see you this morning.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
If you want to call me Dr. Jennifer Aniston, you can.
We were hoping that you would give us a little yoga segment in the commercial breaks.
So now you were supposed
I stay in my lane, you guys.
You were going to be with us in studio today, and then something happened. What happened?
Yes, I was supposed to be with you in studio, but I was notified that I was exposed to a confirmed case of COVID. And even though I have received both doses of the vaccine, the CDC has not yet changed its recommendations. And so I am following CDC guidelines, which means I have to quarantine for 10 days.
So do we think that at some point in the near future that would change if someone has both vaccinations?
Yeah, I mean, that's the hope. Remember that the data shows that the vaccines reduce the risk of severe disease and illness, symptomatic disease. We don't know yet whether it reduces the risk of asymptomatic infection or transmission. So once we get that data, we do expect the CDC to revise its guidelines. But until now, quarantine once again.
It's the one thing that I realize is that viruses of this type are almost unknowable. It seems like with variants and different strains and the virus's desire to live and adapt, we almost only know what we don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that you hit the nail right on the head, Kelly. And from the beginning, we've talked about how in medicine and science, it is so important to say what you know, say what you don't know, say what you think you know. And remember, in medicine and science, we're always learning, and this virus is teaching us on a daily basis how much we don't know.
So everyone is obviously thinking about and wondering and asking, when will it all be over? Do you have any guidance, or do you have the answer?
I don't, Ryan. I don't have a crystal ball. No one does. But I do speak to the country's top public health officials and infectious disease specialists and epidemiologists on a regular basis. And the thought, hopefully, is that eventually COVID-19 will become what influenza is. Yes, it makes people sick. Yes, it can be deadly. But we figure out a way to live with the virus so that we're more in control instead of being on our heels.
Explain what you call the second pandemic. What is the second pandemic?
Cal, from the beginning, public health officials and mental health professionals have been warning about that. And it's really the toll that this pandemic is taking on our mental health. All of us are subject to pandemic fatigue and anxiety and depression and PTSD. We've all lost something in the course of the last year, some more than others. Obviously, some have lost their lives. But that second pandemic really is about the ripple effect that the virus has on our day-to-day lives. And I always say it starts from the head down, so that involves our mental health.
Well, let's take a break and come back more with Dr. Jen right after this. Stay with us online. We're back with both doctors, Dr. Ripa, Dr. Ashton. Dr. Ripa, didn't you have a question to Dr. Ashton?
Well, you know, Dr. Jen, as I like to call her, as we in the medical field call her.
That's right. Those with your degrees.
You're saying that we should all think like a doctor, and I really wish more people would think like us in the medical community.
Yes, Kelly, you are right. And, you know, that's really why I wrote the book, The New Normal, because I was hearing from viewers and my patients alike that the television segment, they wanted more of a deep dive. And what I realized is that because what we learn about this virus changes day by day, rather than teach people the fact du jour, I'd rather explain to people how you can learn how to think like a doctor. And in that way, assess your own risk. Everyone's dealing with the hypochondria. I think I have this, I think I have that. That is normal. That's in the book. And really just how to go about utilizing the information that we have today to make the best decisions about how to live our lives in pandemic times. Because This is not going anywhere. So it's just about how we can adapt and develop resilience.
Unlike the two of you doctors, what if we're not as smart as a doctor? How do we think like a doctor?
Ryan, anyone can be taught how to think like a doctor. It's about asking 4 questions. What's the risk of doing something? What's the risk of not doing it? What's the benefit of doing something? What's the benefit of not doing it? And recognizing that we can never remove risk entirely, but we can do things to lower risk. So when you talk about, let's say, socializing in pandemic times, you know, for now, the masks need to stay on. We need to keep as far apart as we can, indoors, ventilation rules. And you know what? Go to your heating HVAC unit and switch the fan from auto to on. It circulates the air better. That's news from aerosol scientists. So it's things like that that we can do that really take a realistic approach, just like doctors do. There's never such a thing as zero risk in life or in medicine. It's just about lowering that risk so that you can navigate it.
Just thinking about socializing specifically, which you mentioned, are there any other rules to think about in the new normal?
Well, I think we need to always remember, err on the side of caution. You know, one of my Ashton medical sayings is it only has to happen once. And if that thing happens, you know, if you infect someone, let's say, or if you yourself become infected, can you say, I've done everything I can to prevent that, or it was worth it? And that's an example of how doctors think. So I think if we all learn how to bring a little bit more of that into our lives, we'll have less anxiety, less trepidation in moving forward, but we can't look back because that's just not practical.
Talk about some of the silver linings. I know I have a girlfriend of mine that was saying that she had time with her newborn that she never thought she would have.
Yeah.
She thought she'd have to get right back to work. And she got to stay home.
I think there are a lot of silver linings. You just have to look for them. You know, hobbies. I've talked to you guys before. I've started some new hobbies. And you guys, I wanted to bring you this in person. But one of my hobbies was that I started to raise backyard chickens. So I have sent you a carton of eggs from my chickens.
With orange yolk?
But that was a pandemic hobby that I started. So I think when we're through this, we'll have a lot of silver linings. It's just about looking for them.
Right here.
I hope they have those really orange yolks.
I bet they do have the really
I'm so
orange
excited to
yolks.
make a frittata after this.
Thank you so much,
Pick up a copy of Dr. Jen's new book, The New Normal, A Roadmap to Resilience in the Pandemic Era. Everywhere books are sold. Thank you for the info. Great to see you. What about asparagus, spinach?
Oh my gosh, this
what
is
else
so
can we put in the
exciting.
frittata?
We can, well, you can't
Shallot?
have cheese. I'll put cheese.
Okay, let's have half cheese, half no cheese.
Yeah, okay, that
What about
sounds
some
good.
shallot?
What about mushrooms?
Mushrooms? I'm skipping the dark mushrooms right
What?
now. Let's take a break. Our love story of the day is next.